I'm General Mark Milley, former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and I've overseen America's most sensitive intelligence operations for 4 decades. But I've never had to brief a president about intelligence that we possessed 72 hours before October 7th. Intelligence that could have prevented the Hamas attack but was dismissed as routine chatter. What I'm about to reveal will change everything you think you know about the intelligence failure that led to the deadliest day in Israeli history. The intelligence that could have prevented the October 7th massacre didn't arrive in my inbox that morning. It had been accumulating for weeks, building a picture so clear and so terrifying that our analysts couldn't believe Israeli intelligence wasn't seeing the same patterns. By October 4th, 2023, American intelligence agencies possessed what amounted to a detailed blueprint of the Hamas attack that would occur 3 days later, including timing, targets, and tactical approaches. The first warning signs appeared in late September 2023, when NSA intercepts detected unusual communication patterns between Hamas commanders in Gaza and their handlers in Qatar and Iran. These weren't the typical operational communications that intelligence agencies monitor constantly. These were detailed tactical discussions about specific Israeli communities, guard schedules, and response times that suggested imminent, large-scale action. On September 29, 2023, our signals intelligence intercepted a communication that should have triggered immediate alerts across every intelligence service in the region. A Hamas commander in Gaza was receiving detailed maps of Israeli settlements near the Gaza border, including information about civilian evacuation routes, military response protocols, and the exact timing of Israeli Defense Forces patrol changes. The intelligence was so specific that our analysts initially assumed it was Israeli disinformation designed to test Hamas communications security. The second major warning came from human intelligence sources that the CIA had been developing within Hamas for over 3 years. On October 1st, 2023, a source codenamed Desert Rose reported that Hamas fighters were being issued specific target assignments, including photographs of individual Israeli civilians and instructions for capturing rather than killing high-value targets. This wasn't preparation for routine rocket attacks or border skirmishes. This was preparation for a coordinated assault designed to take hostages and hold territory. President Biden received his first briefing on the developing Hamas threat on October 2nd, 2023. The Situation Room had rarely seen such detailed intelligence about an impending terrorist attack. Our analysts presented evidence that Hamas was planning the largest military operation in Gaza since the 2014 conflict, with timing estimated within a 72-hour window beginning October 6th. General Milley, President Biden said after reviewing the intelligence package, "This looks like Hamas is preparing for something significantly larger than their usual operations. What's your assessment of Israeli preparedness?" The question would haunt me for months afterward, because the honest answer was that Israeli intelligence appeared to be completely unaware of the threat developing on their border. The intelligence picture became even clearer on October 3rd, when our satellite surveillance detected unusual movement patterns within Gaza. Thermal imaging showed large groups of fighters moving toward the border at night, then dispersing to hidden positions during daylight hours. The pattern was consistent with assault force positioning, not defensive preparations or routine training exercises. Most alarming was the discovery of tunnel entrances that had been sealed for months suddenly showing activity. Our underground surveillance systems, deployed through years of intelligence cooperation with Israel, detected extensive movement in tunnel networks that Hamas had apparently been preparing for this specific operation. The tunnels weren't just for smuggling or defense. They were positioned to facilitate rapid troop movement toward multiple border crossing points. On October 4th, 2023, I authorized the immediate sharing of our intelligence with Israeli military intelligence, Mossad, and Shin Bet through established intelligence sharing protocols. The package included intercepts, satellite imagery, human source reporting, and tactical analysis that painted a comprehensive picture of the impending Hamas assault. The intelligence was so detailed that it included probable timing windows, likely targets, and recommended defensive measures. The Israeli response to our intelligence was dismissive in a way that shocked our intelligence community. Israeli officials characterized our warnings as routine threat assessment and suggested that Hamas lacked the capability for the kind of coordinated assault our intelligence indicated. They pointed to their technological surveillance advantages, their border security systems, and their assessment that Hamas was more focused on governing Gaza than conducting military operations. The disconnect between American intelligence and Israeli assessment became a crisis within our intelligence community. Our analysts were convinced that a major Hamas attack was imminent, while Israeli intelligence maintained that the threat level was routine. The situation created an unprecedented dilemma. How aggressively should America warn an ally about a threat that allies' intelligence services dismissed? On October 5, 2023, I took the unusual step of personally calling Lieutenant General Aharon Haliva, the head of Israeli military intelligence, to emphasize the severity of our threat assessment. The conversation lasted 47 minutes and included my sharing of specific intercepts and satellite imagery that showed Hamas' final preparations. Haliva thanked me for the information, but indicated that Israeli intelligence had different assessments of Hamas' capabilities and intentions. The final warning came on October 6th, when our signals intelligence detected what appeared to be final operational communications between Hamas commanders. The intercepts included specific timing references suggesting that the attack would begin at dawn on October 7th. NSA analysts were so concerned about the intelligence that they requested authorization to share raw intercepts with Israeli intelligence, a step that would have revealed American surveillance capabilities, but might have prevented the attack. I was in my Pentagon office at 6:30 a.m. on October 7th when the first reports began arriving. Hamas fighters had breached the Gaza border fence at multiple points, using tactics that exactly matched the intelligence we had been sharing with Israeli services for the previous week. The attack unfolded precisely as our intelligence had predicted. Coordinated assault teams, hostage-taking operations, and penetration of Israeli communities that had been specifically identified in our threat assessments. The immediate aftermath of the October 7th attack created the most serious intelligence crisis in U.S.-Israeli relations since the 1973 Yom Kippur War. American intelligence agencies had possessed detailed advance warning of the attack, had shared that warning with Israeli counterparts, and had watched helplessly as the attack proceeded exactly as predicted. The intelligence failure wasn't in American collection capabilities, it was in Israeli assessment and response. President Biden's reaction to the intelligence failure was immediate and decisive. Within 12 hours of the attack, he authorized the deployment of additional intelligence assets to support Israeli operations, while simultaneously launching a comprehensive review of intelligence sharing protocols. The review would examine why detailed American warnings had been dismissed and how similar failures could be prevented in the future. The intelligence post-mortem revealed systematic problems in how Israeli intelligence assessed Hamas capabilities. Israeli analysts had become overconfident in their technological surveillance advantages, while underestimating Hamas' operational planning and coordination capabilities. They had dismissed human intelligence indicators while relying too heavily on electronic surveillance systems that Hamas had learned to evade. More troubling was the discovery that Israeli intelligence had been receiving similar warnings from other sources beyond American intelligence. European intelligence services had detected Hamas preparations, Egyptian intelligence had warned of unusual activity, and even some Israeli human sources had reported concerning developments. The October 7th attack succeeded, not because intelligence was unavailable, but because it was systematically dismissed or misinterpreted. The operational intelligence gathered during the attack revealed that Hamas had been planning the October 7th assault for over 2 years. The operation involved extensive training, detailed target reconnaissance, and coordination with Iranian military advisors who had helped design the tactical approaches. Hamas fighters used intelligence gathering techniques that were far more sophisticated than Israeli intelligence had assessed. The discovery that Iranian Revolutionary Guard advisors had been directly involved in planning the October 7th attack fundamentally changed the strategic assessment of the conflict. This wasn't just a Hamas operation, it was an Iranian proxy attack conducted through Palestinian fighters. The intelligence revealed that Iran had provided tactical guidance, operational planning, and real-time coordination support during the attack. The intelligence also revealed that Hamas had been systematically studying Israeli military responses to previous border incidents, developing detailed knowledge of Israeli Defense Forces deployment patterns, response times, and tactical procedures. They had essentially reverse-engineered Israeli security measures to identify vulnerabilities that could be exploited during a coordinated assault. By October 10, 2023, our intelligence assessment had identified several factors that contributed to the intelligence failure: Israeli overconfidence in border security technology, dismissal of human intelligence indicators, and systematic underestimation of Hamas capabilities had created conditions where detailed advance warning was ignored or misinterpreted. The human cost of the intelligence failure was devastating. Over 1,400 Israelis were killed in the October 7th attack, many of them civilians who could have been evacuated if Israeli intelligence had acted on American warnings. The intelligence that could have saved lives was available, accurately assessed, and shared with Israeli counterparts, but was not translated into protective action. The strategic implications of the intelligence failure extended far beyond the immediate casualties. The October 7th attack triggered a broader, regional conflict that drew in multiple actors and created instability that continues to affect global security. An intelligence failure that lasted 3 days created consequences that would persist for years. The investigation into the intelligence failure revealed that American warnings had been shared not just with Israeli intelligence leadership but with operational commanders responsible for Gaza border security. Multiple Israeli officials had received detailed American assessments of the Hamas threat, yet defensive measures were not implemented. The failure occurred at multiple levels of Israeli intelligence and military command. The technological aspects of the intelligence failure were particularly troubling. Israeli investment in advanced surveillance systems, including underground sensors, aerial surveillance, and electronic monitoring, had created overconfidence that technological solutions could substitute for human intelligence analysis. Hamas had learned to operate below the threshold of technological detection, while maintaining capabilities that human intelligence could identify. The psychological factors contributing to the intelligence failure included what analysts termed success syndrome, the belief that previous effectiveness in preventing Hamas attacks meant that future attacks could be similarly prevented. Israeli intelligence had successfully disrupted numerous Hamas operations over the years, creating confidence that their assessment and response capabilities were adequate for any threat Hamas might pose. The operational security review revealed that Hamas had been conducting sophisticated counterintelligence operations designed to make their October 7th preparations appear routine. They had maintained normal operational patterns while secretly positioning assault forces, deceiving Israeli surveillance systems through carefully orchestrated misdirection. The deception was so effective that even detailed American intelligence warnings were dismissed as misinterpretation of routine Hamas activities. The intelligence sharing protocols that existed between American and Israeli intelligence services were designed for routine threat information, not urgent warnings about imminent large-scale attacks. The system worked well for ongoing intelligence cooperation, but was inadequate for crisis situations, where immediate action was required to prevent catastrophic attacks. The aftermath of the October 7th attack led to fundamental changes in how American intelligence agencies assess and communicate urgent threats to allied nations. New protocols were established for escalating warnings when Allied intelligence services dismiss American threat assessments. The changes were designed to prevent future situations where detailed advance warning fails to prevent attacks. The regional consequences of the intelligence failure extended beyond Israel and Gaza. The October 7th attack triggered broader Middle Eastern instability that affected American interests throughout the region. Iran's role in supporting the attack created new challenges for American strategy toward Iranian proxy forces and regional security arrangements. The intelligence lessons learned from the October 7th failure influenced American intelligence operations globally. The discovery that detailed, accurate intelligence could be dismissed by Allied services led to enhanced verification procedures and multiple warning channels designed to ensure that critical intelligence reaches decision-makers who will act on it. The human intelligence sources who provided advance warning of the October 7th attack faced severe consequences for their reporting. Several sources were compromised when Hamas conducted internal security sweeps following the attack, leading to the loss of intelligence assets that had been developed over years of careful cultivation. The technological intelligence capabilities that detected Hamas's preparations for the October 7th attack were enhanced and expanded following the intelligence failure. American surveillance systems in the Middle East were upgraded to provide even more detailed monitoring of terrorist group activities and improved warning systems for allied nations. The diplomatic implications of the intelligence failure affected American relationships throughout the Middle East. The discovery that detailed American warnings had been ignored raised questions about the effectiveness of intelligence cooperation and the reliability of Allied assessment capabilities. Trust in intelligence sharing was damaged by the failure to prevent an attack that American intelligence had clearly predicted. The congressional oversight of the intelligence failure led to comprehensive reviews of intelligence sharing protocols and threat assessment procedures. Multiple congressional committees examined how American intelligence had successfully predicted the October 7th attack, while Allied intelligence services failed to act on those predictions. The intelligence failure analysis revealed that Hamas had been receiving tactical guidance from Iranian Revolutionary Guard advisors who had experience planning and executing complex military operations. The Iranian involvement explained the sophistication of the October 7th attack and the effectiveness of Hamas deception operations that convinced Israeli intelligence the threat was routine. The long-term consequences of the intelligence failure continue to affect American intelligence operations in the Middle East. The October 7th attack demonstrated that even the most detailed and accurate intelligence is worthless if the recipients fail to act on it. The failure changed how American intelligence agencies assess Allied capabilities and how they communicate urgent threats. The memorial services for the victims of the October 7th attack were attended by intelligence officers who had worked desperately to prevent the tragedy. The knowledge that their warnings had been accurate but ignored created a form of moral injury that affected intelligence professionals throughout the American intelligence community. The intelligence success that became an intelligence failure represents one of the most painful episodes in modern American intelligence history. The October 7th attack succeeded not because American intelligence failed to detect the threat, but because the intelligence that could have prevented it was dismissed by those responsible for acting on it. Today, the intelligence protocols established in response to the October 7th failure continue to guide American intelligence operations worldwide. The lessons learned from watching detailed warnings being ignored while civilians died have changed how America approaches intelligence sharing with allied nations and how urgently we escalate warnings when allied assessments differ from American intelligence. The men and women who detected the Hamas preparations for the October 7th attack and tried desperately to prevent it represent the finest traditions of American intelligence service. Their accurate reporting and urgent warnings could have saved lives if Allied intelligence services had acted on the information provided. Their professional competence was overshadowed by systemic failures beyond their control. The October 7th intelligence failure teaches us that intelligence success depends not just on collection and analysis, but on the willingness of decision-makers to act on intelligence assessments. The most sophisticated intelligence capabilities in the world are worthless if the warnings they generate are dismissed or ignored by those responsible for taking protective action. This is my testimony to the intelligence professionals who saw the October 7th attack coming and tried desperately to prevent it. Their warnings were accurate, their analysis was correct, and their efforts were comprehensive. The failure occurred not in American intelligence capabilities, but in the systems designed to translate intelligence into action. Their service represents the tragic reality that sometimes intelligence success and intelligence failure can coexist in the same operation.